Hello, and welcome to today's mini teach on the language acquisition theory called comprehensible input. So, getting started, let's cover what comprehensible input even means. So, it's a part of the input hypothesis that was developed by Dr. Stephen Krashen, who is a linguist that studied how people learn languages. He explained that when we learn language best, we are understanding most of what we hear or read, but there's still a small challenge, something that's just a little higher than what our language proficiency is, more of what we know. So basically, if students can mostly understand what's being said, they can pick up on new words and language patterns naturally, and they're able to extract meaning around what that word is. This idea has really shaped how teachers support English learners today, reminding us to, when we plan our lessons, make sure that they are clear, meaningful, and just challenging enough for the student to be able to grow. So when we think about EL instruction in the classroom and how impactful it is on us as teachers when we're developing our lessons, we need to keep in mind that comprehensible input greatly impacts how we deliver our English language instruction because it's really comes down to making sure that when we are instructing to these students that we're developing lessons and delivering lessons that are making the language understandable for them. Um, and that way it opens up the door for them to focus on learning the content and the language at the same time. We don't want to throw so much at them that they're not able to extract those important words, patterns, and the overall meaning. So how do we do this in the classroom? As you can see, there's a lot of things that teachers need to consider when we are developing lessons through the lens of comprehensible input. The top three, I think, are truly the most critical things to plan for is using visuals. That can look like incorporating graphs. That could look like bringing maps, anchor charts, posters, pictures, anything that helps the students visually engage with what that word is. And then realia, whenever you can introduce those objects into the instruction, giving something that the students can work with hands-on and connect meaning to that object and to that word. That's really going to get the most bang for your buck. The second point here, model, model, model. We're not just simply explaining it. It's that show me, don't tell me. We're going to go in and back everything up with demonstration. We're going to model for them what we want them to do to help them make connections with that word. They could be acting it out. They could be doing gestures, right? So you just want to make sure that whatever it is that you're asking for them to do, that you're modeling it for them first. The next aspect here is all about how the teachers are delivering the lesson. When you're delivering a lesson that's thinking about comprehensible input and the EL experience, we want to make sure that our sentences are clear at an appropriately slow pace. We want to use simple sentences that are nice and, concise, but don't talk down to them. Sorry for the typo on that. Other things to consider, we want to bring in the students' culture and background knowledge as often as we can because it's going to help make that bridge between the English word and the idea that much stronger if they can pull from their own experiences, their own knowledge, or their own culture. We want to shape knowledge of the word through use of context. So we want to provide situations or stories or settings that are going to make the meaning of the word clear, because again, it all goes back to extracting meaning. We want to conduct frequent checks for understanding, and this depends on the proficiency level of the student, but we can ask them to show what they know in a way that's comfortable for them. So if they can demonstrate their knowledge through drawings, if they can mimic back gestures, if they're at that place where they can give short responses, we want to be able to give them different ways to show us that they understood that input that we were giving. Always provide sentence frames and word banks. These are just tools in all lessons where we have EL learners. We want to make sure that they can express their ideas using those correct structures while they're still focusing on the meaning. And then pairing the student up with a peer to model the gestures, model how we say the word, model how we structure it in sentences, as much EL support that can be given through peer instruction and peer facilitation, whether that's discussions or even just, the guided practice that they do with the teacher, the better that it will be for the student. So to model this, I wrote up a quick lesson geared towards kindergarten students. And so what we're going to be doing today is learning about the body. Now, of course, I don't have a kinder class. I teach third grade, but just pretend that, behind my computer, I'm teaching this lesson to a group of kinder students. So here I've listed the objective, and I would say at the beginning of the lesson, showing the slide deck, today we're going to learn about the parts of the body. I can, by the end of the lesson, identify or name at least 5 body parts: the head, arms, the legs, the eyes, and the mouth, using words and gestures, so I'll be pointing to, with 80% accuracy. So let's get started. For this lesson today, we're going to need mirrors. I don't have a body part poster, but I do have it in the slide deck, and I will be highlighting as we go. At the end of the lesson, you will get a chance to use dolls, and your checkout with me today, you'll get to look at some body part picture cards. All right, so we're going to get started with our warm-up. We're going to play a quick game that you've probably played before. It's called Simon Says. And so for this warm-up, there are 3 steps. When I say go, I will need you to stand up. Go ahead and do that. Go. Okay. You're going to stand right behind your desk. Now I want you to push in your chair. Go ahead and do that. All right. Now that you are standing behind your desk, get ready to copy me. All right. I want you to touch your nose. I'm sorry. Simon says, touch your nose. Good, good. Simon says, wiggle your fingers. Wiggle your fingers. Good. All right. Simon says, tap your head. Tap, tap, tap. Good. Keep going. Simon didn't say stop. And of course, this would go on. I have the timer set to make sure that I've given them time to follow the instructions. I'd move a little bit slower for them, go one by one, explain what we're doing and do a couple of rounds. If your students are particularly advanced with the game, you could even throw in a non-Simon Says just to make it more fun. But the point of the warm-up is just to hook their interest, right? So at the end of the warm-up, they're still standing behind their desk, and I would continue to the next slide. And I would say, all right, so today we are going to have a lesson about the parts of the body. And so for this lesson, I want you to move to the carpet. We're going to sit down crisscross applesauce on our bottoms, and I'm going to pass around a mirror. So after I get the mirrors passed out, and I apologize, I'm at home on fall break, so I don't have one. My classroom has handheld mirrors even for the third grade. I would ask for them to take a moment. I would probably even set a timer in this slide for this part too. Have them look into the mirror, specifically at their face. So, okay, I want you to hold your mirror in the palm of your hand, and I want you to look at yourself in the mirror. Just take about 30 seconds. All right, pay attention to what you see. And then I would have them put the mirror either down at their feet if I thought that they could handle it, or more often than not, I have them hold the mirror up. I come around and quickly collect them, and then we move on. Okay, so in the mirror, you may have noticed that you have very similar features, parts of your face, that if you were to look over at your neighbor, I want you to turn to the person next to you. Now look at their face. And I would give them a chance. And at this point, I'm not really engaging in discussion or vocabulary because, again, they're littles, and some kids may already know this and some may not. But then when I bring the focus back to me, I would go ahead and tie it to the poster. Now take a look at this picture, this drawing. I see a little girl, and I see that she has a lot of the same features as you and as me. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the parts of the body. And for right now, we're going to focus on the head, this part of the body. So what I'm going to do, my turn, I'm going to say the part of the body. I'm going to point to the part of the body and tell you its name and what it does. Then I want you to point and repeat. That's all you need to do. So let's start with the head. So this is the head on the little girl, on the little girl's body. This is Miss C's head. This is my head. This is my head. The head is the part of the body that holds the face. Can you touch your head? Okay, put a little circle around it. This is my head. What was the word? They would say head. Then we would move on to the next. This is my eye. Okay, this is the part of the body that we use to see. This is the little girl's eye. Look, there's one, two. This is my eye. Don't point, or well, point to it. Don't physically touch it. Point to it. One, two. This is the eye. What was the word? Eye. Very good. Okay, last one for this slide. We have a body part called the ear that we use to hear. You can hear my voice. This is the ear. This is the little girl's ear. Oh, there we have more than one again. One, two, ear, ear. This is my ear. What was the word? Ear. They would repeat that. Good. Now, with vocabulary instruction, comprehensible input theory does discuss the need for chunking. So while I have multiple slides that review important vocabulary terms, what we don't want to do is inundate the students with too much input. And at the kinder level, they say about 5 minutes of instructional input is ideal before they chunk with practice. And then you can go back and do more I do and then do some we do and just go back and forth. And that's the same with ELL students as well. So with that in mind, I chunked the first three, I modeled it, they repeated it. Now we're going into the guided practice. And so these are the instructions. Now let's practice what we just talked about. I'm going to ask you to copy me again, and then you're going to say the word in a whole sentence. So let me model this. My turn. All right, I'm going to say, touch your head. Okay, and I want everyone to touch their head. Do it with me. Okay, good. Now listen. I'm touching my head. I'm going to say, this is my head. Your turn. This is my head. And then I would do it one more time. Okay, now touch your head. Say, this is my head. This is my head. And we would do the same with the ear and the eye that we just talked about. And I would go ahead and remind them, you have 1, 2 eyes, 1, 2 ears, but this is the ear. This is the eye. So we would move on and do the same thing with the rest of the slides where they're going through that critical vocabulary of mouth and nose. Again, I'm saying the word, I'm giving them the definition, I'm highlighting it on the visual. I'm pointing to it on my person, they're pointing to it on their person. And again, we're repeating over and over and over what those words are and connecting with the total physical response and the visual aids to really help them kind of cement that pattern and that meaning. They don't have to understand every word. They just need to get the bigger pieces chunked out through the support of the visuals. So going through, then we would move into the routine of arms and making sure that they would cut off at the hands, legs, making sure they cut off at the feet. So once we get past the input, that continuum of going back and forth between the I do and we do for all the instructional input, I would wrap it up with this slide, and say, okay, so when we now look at this picture of the boy, this is the boy's body, my body, this is me, and he's pointing to himself. So I would have my student stand up and I would say, I want you to repeat my body. And I would have them go from head down to feet. My body. Repeat my body. This is me. And they would do the same. This is me. Then I would have them remain standing and just go ahead and tell them the quick definition. The body means the whole person. It's all of our parts put together. The head, and then we talked about arms, hands, legs, and then feet. If I had the camera angled up, I would show you all of that. But then once they get done with that, then we go into the next practice portion. Again, that check for understanding, where this time I'm releasing some of the responsibility and I'm not saying the word, I'm gesturing and gauging for their recall, listening to see how they're pronouncing the word. And cleaning up any misconceptions at that point. So now let's practice. Stay standing. You're going to copy me. So when I point to a part of the body, you're going to point to that part of the body too. And then I'm going to ask you, what was its name? So here we go. All right, do what I do. Okay. Oh, what's this part of the body? Who remembers? This is my, and they would say, hopefully, head. If not, I would go back to the previous slides. And we would do that with the rest. Okay, this is, do this with me. What is this called? And they would say, arm. Okay. And I'm going through all the same motions that I would have used in the lesson. So where they're physically touching from shoulder down to wrist. And then for hand, I have them circle. Okay, this is, what is this? And they're doing as I'm doing. Oh, that's the hand. Good job. So once we've gone through this, and this should take no more than, I think I paced it for 3 to 4 minutes. We do the tie it all together. So one of the nice things that you can do um, to provide additional support to help them apply meaning to what they just learned is to give it to them in song. So they have practiced it with physical response. There is a really a component at the end in the you do portion, but they have tied it in with that repetition. They have been given the explicit vocabulary. They've had plenty of chances to practice it. And then we tie it into song to help them cement those words to a song they've probably heard before and then extract that meaning. So I put this in for when I actually do this lesson for one of my um, future intervention groups, but they would do the head, shoulders, knees, and toes, and they would practice. But just to give it purpose, I would say, okay, we're going to go ahead and we're going to listen to a song you may have heard before that now you're going to practice when you come to where they point and you know the word. I want you to say the word. So we didn't go over knees and toes, but they do, in the song, they cover other parts of the body that we have discussed. So the instructions I would give is follow along, follow what the man is doing. And when he points to a part of the body that we talked about, when you know it, say the word as you are listening to the song and gesturing. So, as we wrap up the lesson, that's the I do and the we do portion. We now need to do that final check for understanding. In the you do, this is where I incorporated the Relia. The students would be given a chance to work with a partner to go and practice applying on the doll the parts of the body. You could modify this where you have a guided partner talk where the students are pointing out or doing their own version of Simon Says to go over those parts of the body. I would probably give some more visual supports for that. But for this, just very quickly, I threw something together. The students can be at their desk coloring a person with all the parts labeled, or the students can be practicing naming the parts of the body on the doll, the ones that we discussed, and making that connection. Oh, there's the doll's nose, here's my nose. But regardless, what I'm doing at the back table is pulling students one by one, and I would present them with picture cards where the part of the body is drawn on there, and the name is covered. And I am asking the student to flip the card over, and I asked them to look at the card, point to that part of their body, and tell me what the name is. So if they're looking at a hand, they're going to point to their hand and they're going to call it hand. And I would model it on the practice card, and then I would check them against 5 cards in the hopes of getting that 80% accuracy. If not, then of course I would be thinking about how I would want to support them in a future lesson. And so that activity is a very quick 1 to 2 minute check-in for the students that you're instructing. And I would specifically pull back those ELL students first to make sure that they've got it. Now, if your student is not at that point where they're able to answer through words, you could modify this to where they're going in and saying, okay, if you flip the card over and go, this is hand, I want you to point to your hand. And as long as they're recognizing and gesturing, or you can even take away the cards if you're going to do this without them saying the word, if you just want to check if they recognize what you said and have connected it to the body part, don't use the cards for them to look at. Just have them say the word and have them point. But that's how I had designed this lesson for a kindergarten class pretty early on, learning about parts of the body and that important vocabulary. This would be kind of an introductory lesson to a larger unit, but thinking about the lens of comprehensible input, keeping instruction short and sweet, modeling along the way, lots of repetition, um, frequent checks for understanding, and connecting to visuals and songs and total physical response in different ways for them to get an idea of what, if I say head and they don't know what that means, oh, well, Missy's pointing to her head. Missy's showing me on a picture. Missy is having me look at a doll. These are all ways for them to start making that connection to vocabulary, and they're understanding something just slightly beyond their proficiency level. If you have any questions, let me know, but that was the presentation for today. Thanks for watching.